The lecture hall settled into a heavy hush as Commander Vexthai's question drifted through the room like a gauntlet tossed at the feet of 200 cadets. His 4 eyes glided across rows of students from 47 worlds, hoping someone, anyone, knew the answer. "Can anyone explain why humans who leave Earth so rarely return?" he asked. Several cadets shifted in their seats, some flicking their antennae or brushing crystalline brows. The question wasn't new. Xenoanthropologists had argued about it for decades. Humans were scattered everywhere throughout the galaxy as engineers, diplomats, explorers, security officers. But Earth itself remained oddly underpopulated compared to the cradle worlds of other species. In the last row sat Daisy Martinez, her worn flight jacket marking her background long before anyone read her file. The academy uniforms around her were crisp and pristine, untouched by weather or dirt. She listened patiently as the usual theories fluttered around the hall. Earth was too primitive, too chaotic, too hostile. Others whispered more dramatic ideas involving shame or escape. Finally she raised her hand. Commander Vexthai's mandibles clicked in surprise. Daisy stood, and dozens of eyes, compound, multifaceted, luminescent, turned toward her. She had been expecting this moment. It came up anywhere humans gathered in small numbers. "I didn't leave Earth because it was dangerous," she said. "I left because it was too easy." Confused murmuring rippled through the hall. A Cathan cadet made of crystalline plates laughed, the sound chiming faintly like a storm shaking wind bells. "Easy?" the translator repeated with difficulty. "Your world has superstorms, quakes, volcanoes. Your oceans hold creatures that could swallow a shuttle. Your microorganisms can corrode starship alloys. What about that is easy?" Daisy's smile was thin, tired, and honest. "All of it because we evolved there." She descended the steps toward the lecture floor, each click of her boots deepening the silence. Across the room, the only other human cadet, William Chin, met her gaze and nodded. He understood exactly what she meant. "Earth doesn't feel difficult to us," she continued. "It feels normal. When I was 8, a black bear wandered into my backyard. The bear left and I went back to my game. When I was 12, I got lost hiking in the Rockies for 3 days in freezing weather. I survived because my grandfather taught me how to build shelter and fire. That's ordinary where I'm from." A Zenturi cadet lifted a tentacle in disbelief. "It was normal," Daisy said. "That's the point. Every human child grows up surrounded by water that can drown them, weather that can batter them, animals that can kill them," Daisy said as she reached the podium. "We learn to swim early because we must. We learn which plants are poisonous and which animals to avoid. We build shelter long before we reach adulthood. That's just baseline life on Earth." She turned to face the hall fully. Commander Vexthai mentioned Earth's microbes. "Yes, our bacteria are aggressive. That's why human immune systems work like hardened biological defense systems. It's why we can eat most station food without getting sick while many of you require supplements. We walk around as chemical fortresses," she added, "because Earth demanded it." William now stood beside her, adding his own experience. "The first time I left Earth, I visited Sanctuary Station. Gorgeous place. Perfect temperature. Gravity set to an ideal standard. Atmosphere filtered until it tasted clean and sweet." He gave a small, almost embarrassed laugh. "I was bored within a week." A small Pixith cadet squeaked, perplexed. "Bored? How can absolute safety be dull?" "Because nothing changes," William answered. "There's no weather to anticipate, no terrain to understand, no unexpected conditions. Everything is controlled and predictable. Species from calm worlds understandably love that. But to me?" He shrugged. "It felt like living inside a padded box." Daisy picked up from him seamlessly. "This is why humans don't rush back to Earth. The moment we leave, we realize something the galaxy itself slowly figured out. You need us. In the Outer Rim, nearly 3/4 of rescue teams are led by humans. Deep space exploration? More than 60% human. Disaster relief in high-gravity or extreme temperature regions? Mostly humans again." She motioned to the holographic map hovering behind her. "You asked why we don't go home. Because once we leave Earth, we finally find challenges worthy of what Earth carved into us. The places you label hazardous or barely survivable. They feel familiar to us. Your impossible missions? They feel like our normal." Commander Vexthai's posture subtly shifted, shoulders straightening, mandibles folding in contemplation. His earlier dismissiveness evaporated. "I believe I'm beginning to understand," he admitted. "Earth isn't too primitive to keep you. It's too small." "Exactly," Daisy said quietly. "Humans aren't running away from home. We're searching for worlds that can match the intensity that shaped us." Daisy glanced at William, then back to the commander. "Earth taught us to survive conditions that would crush most species. The galaxy offered us comfort and beauty, but humans often choose the rough edges instead. We look for environments that test us the way Earth did." She stepped away from the podium, letting her words settle. "We seek out worlds on the edge of habitable. You call them death zones or frontier hazards. To us they're just opportunities. Places we can help stabilize. Places that feel almost like home. The hall sat in utter silence. A faint hum from the ventilation system filled the stillness as cadets processed what she had said. Finally, an Ivorian student with violet-scaled skin raised her hand slowly. Then when humans request patrol routes through the Scorched Nebula or volunteer for ice moon surveys, you aren't being brave? William answered without hesitation. We're being comfortable. Those conditions echo what shaped our species. Heat, cold, storms, danger, that's the rhythm of Earth. Daisy returned to her seat, but Commander Vexthai's voice halted her before she could sit. Cadet Martinez. Cadet Chin. Both humans turned. I believe I owe your species an apology, the commander said. We have been teaching a flawed version of galactic history. We claimed humans spread across the stars because they were fleeing a hostile world. No, sir, Daisy replied softly as she sat down. Humans are spread across the stars because we're the one species capable of thriving anywhere else. That statement rippled through the room like a shockwave. Several cadets looked down at their notes, rethinking everything they had studied. Others watched the humans with new curiosity, as if seeing a rare and dangerous artifact in a museum suddenly come alive. The lecture resumed, but the atmosphere had changed. Whispers carried across rows. Glances lingered on Daisy and William, glances no longer questioning but awed, uncertain, and newly respectful. Because now the truth was undeniable. Earth had not been a cage they escaped. It had been a forge. Impossible storms, violent seasons, vast oceans, hungry ecosystems. Those were the hammers that shaped humanity into something uniquely adaptable. Something rare. Something the galaxy needed, urgently, desperately, but could never replicate on its own. Outside the lecture hall, visible through towering transparent viewports, the stars glittered in endless patterns across the dark. To most species, that infinite expanse represented a challenge, daunting, dangerous, unpredictable. But to the two humans in the room, it looked like an invitation. Another stretch of unclaimed horizon. Another chance to test themselves. And the cadets around them, who had spent years studying human behavior from a distance, finally understood why. Humans smiled not because they were fearless but because they were familiar with fear. They grew up wrestling with it in the form of storms, predators, and unpredictable terrain. They evolved not in gentle paradise, but on a world that demanded creativity, toughness, and resilience from the moment they learned to walk. This was the heart of Daisy's message, a truth that textbooks had missed for generations. Humans weren't scattered across the galaxy because they were escaping danger. They were scattered across it because danger was the one thing they understood better than anyone else. They were explorers not out of arrogance but instinct. Builders because they refused to surrender hostile landscapes. Problem solvers because their home trained them to anticipate disaster long before it arrived. So when other species hesitated to step into the Scorched Nebula or cross the frozen plateaus of the ice moons, humans volunteered. Not to impress anyone. Not to prove themselves heroes. But because those extreme edges of existence felt like the closest thing to the place that shaped them. And while the galaxy prized its peaceful, finely controlled environments, humans gravitated to the wild spaces, the unclaimed, the dangerous, the unpredictable. The places where others faltered. The places where humans quietly went to work. As the lecture neared its end, Daisy and William exchanged a glance. A small, shared smile. Not smug, simply understanding. The universe stretched outward like an unfinished map, and humans had always loved unfinished maps. The Academy's cadets now realized this too. If the galaxy ever needed someone to step onto a burning moon, dive into a hurricane world, or cut through a region of space no one had charted, humans would already be volunteering. Not because they were reckless, because they were ready. The stars outside pulsed softly, waiting. The humans smiled.